Hi everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to talk to you about a pharaoh who really symbolizes the glory and the greatness of ancient Egypt. So today's video is going to be about Pharaoh Ramses II. Pharaoh Ramses II is largely considered to be the greatest pharaoh in ancient Egyptian history, and his name crossed the centuries and has been perpetuated throughout history. So, who was Pharaoh Ramses II? Ramses II was the son of Pharaoh Seti I, and Ramses II was 25 years old when he actually became pharaoh, and his reign was outstandingly long because he ruled over ancient Egypt for 67 years, from 1279 BC to 1212 BC. In fact, the notoriety of Pharaoh Ramses II is in a large measure due to his long reign, his major military commands, and his extraordinary architectural achievements. Pharaoh Ramses II was a very skillful warrior and military commander, and during his reign, he led the Egyptian army against many enemies, such as the Hittites and the Nubians, who are the inhabitants of modern-day Turkey and northern Sudan, respectively. The most famous battle during the reign of Pharaoh Ramses II is the Battle of Kadesh, which took place in 1279 BC in modern-day Syria. The Battle of Kadesh is the earliest battle in recorded history, and it opposed the Egyptian army, led by Ramses II, and the Hittite army, led by Emperor Muwatalli II. All in all, the Battle of Kadesh involved more than 60,000 men and more than 5,000 chariots. There has been lots of controversy as to which army really won the battle, but Pharaoh Ramses II returned to Egypt and he was received and proclaimed as a military hero, so it's easy to assume that the Egyptians emerged victorious in the Battle of Kadesh. In addition to being a highly successful military commander, Pharaoh Ramses II was also a very prolific builder, and many ancient Egyptian monuments were constructed during his reign. One of the monuments that Pharaoh Ramses II constructed during his reign is his mortuary temple Ramesseum, which is located in Thebes in modern-day Luxor. However, the most spectacular monuments that Pharaoh Ramses II built during his reign are the temples of Abu Simbel. He actually built one temple for himself and one for his favorite wife, Queen Nefertari. The temples of Abu Simbel are located in the southernmost point in Egypt, and they are, alongside the pyramids of Giza, the most iconic monuments in Egypt. The Great Temple of Pharaoh Ramses II was built to commemorate Egypt's victory against the Hittites. This temple is so massive. At the entrance, there are 4 statues representing Pharaoh Ramses II sitting down, and each of these statues measures more than 20 meters. So inside the temple you will find many statues representing Pharaoh Ramses II, and you will also find many relief sculptures that depict Pharaoh Ramses II bravely fighting against Egypt's enemies. And last but not least, you will find a sanctuary which contains statues representing Pharaoh Ramses II sitting down right next to the gods Ta, Amun-Ra, and Ra-Horakhti. Similar to the Egyptian pyramids in Giza, the Great Temple of Pharaoh Ramses II reflects the knowledge that the ancient Egyptians had on astronomy. The Egyptian architects oriented the Great Temple of Pharaoh Ramses II in such a way that every 22nd of October and every 22nd of December, the sun would illuminate the sanctuary, and it would illuminate the sculptures which represents the gods. So we know that Pharaoh Ramses II was around the age of 90 when he died, and he was buried in the Valley of the Kings, and his mummy is today displayed in Cairo Museum. So this is my novel, Le Mystère du Triangle Sacré, and it was published in 2016. So I already made some videos about this book, and the links are provided in the description below. So the events of the story take place mainly in ancient Egypt, and some members of the royal family involved in this novel include Pharaoh Ramses II, his favorite wife Queen Nefertari, his son Merentah, and his daughter Nebetawi. So I'm going to read you some of those descriptive passages about the members of the royal family. So we're going to start with Pharaoh Ramses II. Then we saw about 20 meters in front of us a man sitting on a royal throne. I could hardly believe it. It was him, the great, the notorious Pharaoh Ramses II. Pharaoh Ramses II gazed at us as we approached him. He was tall and thin, wearing a prestigious royal nemes or royal headdress, a dark false beard, and a long woolen dress. He was also wearing sandals made of papyrus, as well as half a dozen of gold bracelets in his arms. And now I'm going to read you the passage which is about Queen Nefertari and her daughter, Princess Nebetawi. After 3 minutes, we arrived at the hall of the palace. It was crowded. Pharaoh Ramses II was sitting on his royal throne. Next to him was standing the bald man dressed in leopard skin. That was the man who was strangely familiar to me. This time, unlike that morning of that day, there wasn't just one throne for Ramses. Beside him were sitting, on 2 different thrones, a rather fat woman with jet black hair and a young lady with green eyes in her 20s. She was tall and had long, silky and shiny dark hair. She was wearing a gold necklace, papyrus sandals, and a dress with long sleeves which hung in several folds. And that will conclude today's video. Pharaoh Ramses II wanted to make his name eternal, and his extraordinary achievements make him one of the most prominent figures in history. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to share them in the comment section, and thank you so much for your attention.